Weekly Review. Sunday night at 9 on ViuTVSix. Regarded as the 5th golf major. And for the first time in Hong Kong, you can catch this prestigious tournament from the PGA Tour live on free TV. The Players' Championship. Sunday late night, live on ViuTV6. Provocative stories that have changed lives. Insightful interviews with notable figures from the worlds of news, politics, and entertainment. ViuTV6 brings you one of the most esteemed news magazines. ABC News 2020. Sunday night at 9:30 on ViuTV6.
Hello there and a very good evening to you. I'm Patrick Falk in Hong Kong. You're watching ViuTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Right call or cover-up? US President Donald Trump fires FBI chief, sending shockwaves through Washington. Hazy Hong Kong Day. Pollution levels soar above World Health Organization's safety limits. And Queen Mary doctors say United Christian Hospital at fault in case of liver transplant. All right, well, it's likely you've noticed the thick smog blanketing the city today. Monitoring stations recorded worrying levels of air pollution across the city, indicating a very high health risk. Levels of harmful PM2.5 particles hit a high of as much as 107 micrograms per cubic meter in Central. That's at least 4 times the World Health Organization's safety limit of 25. The Air Quality Health Index in busy districts also climbed over 10, which is the highest level on the scale. The Environmental Protection Department says the smog is from the Pearl River Delta area, but a spokesperson from the Clean Air Network says it's mainly generated locally. And earlier we spoke to Winnie Dare, campaign officer at Clean Air Network, to get her take on the situation.
Well, actually, we do not doubt that certain degree of the air pollutants in Hong Kong is caused by the regional factor. But if you look carefully enough, we have find a lot of academic research, and then they have actually a very clear sourcing of different type of air pollutants that is measured by the monitoring station, and then find that actually, let me take the NO2 as an example. Actually, over 60 to 80% of the NO2, which is emitted by the vehicles, are actually emitted from local source, which means that it's us, the local cars, emit so much NO2 and also the resulting ozone, ground level ozone. So we cannot escape the fact that when we look at the problem of air pollution, we cannot just rely on the meteorological factors such as the wind direction or the wind speed, but we also have to look at the root of the problem in Hong Kong, which is because of the high level of roadside pollution caused by so many cars and so many vehicles that happen. You can see we have encountered a lot of traffic congestion problems. And actually, that is the reflection of our worrying numbers of private vehicles and also the other type of cars that happened in Hong Kong City.
Really not very pleasant at all, and hopefully it doesn't stay around for too much longer. Anyway, to our next story, as drama over a 43-year-old mother who received 2 urgent liver transplants continues to unfold, doctors at the United Christian Hospital were accused of failing to inform Queen Mary Hospital about a serious medical blunder despite knowing about it. Tang's doctor at Queen Mary said the error only came to light when he was examining her medical records after she was transferred from Kwun Tong Hospital. He said doctors failed to prescribe hepatitis B medication to her. That allowed a virus to develop, leading to liver failure. The hospital authority hasn't shared any further details about who's responsible, but said the mechanism for hospitals to report errors should be reviewed.
I'm not saying that there's a systemic problem here. But since there's a concern And also we'd like to see whether there is really we are actually implementing the thing that front line really clear about it, or any delay. This time there's a delay. So I think it's appropriate time for us to have a set up a panel to review.
Okay, to the States now, and in a move that's shocked Washington, President Donald Trump has abruptly fired the director of the FBI. The White House says James Comey was dismissed over his handling of the inquiry into Hillary Clinton's emails, but critics say they smell a cover-up. Well, there's Comey boarding a private plane before taking off from Los Angeles airport not long after he was fired. Comey was in the middle of a 10-year term when he received a dismissal letter from Trump saying he'd accepted the recommendation of Attorney General Jeff Sessions that Comey was not able to effectively lead the bureau. But the timing of all this is raising eyebrows. It comes as the FBI investigates Russian meddling in the 2016 election and possible ties to the Trump campaign. The move immediately sparked calls by Democrats to launch a special counsel.
The only way the American people can have faith in this investigation is for it to be led by a fearless, independent special prosecutor. If Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein does not appoint an independent special prosecutor, every American will rightly suspect that the decision to fire Director Comey was part of a cover-up.
It's outrageous. I mean, I thought I could no longer be surprised by this administration. We'll cancel that out. I'm shocked by what the president did. I'm shocked as well by the idea that the Deputy Attorney General put his name to a letter that doesn't pass any smell test, somehow blaming Comey for his actions during the Clinton investigation as the reason for firing. That doesn't pass any smell test.
Well, do join us for our late show at 11:30 for further developments on that story. But now, day one in office, and South Korea's newly elected President Moon Jae-in has vowed to immediately address pressing issues affecting the country. This includes North Korea's advancing nuclear ambitions and tensions with the United States and China. Samantha Vardas has more.
South Korea's new president cutting straight to the country's chief concern at his swearing-in on Wednesday.
I will urgently try to solve the security crisis. I will always be on the move for peace on the Korean peninsula. If necessary, I will fly straight to Washington. I will go to Beijing and Tokyo, and if the conditions allow, to Pyongyang as well.
Moon Jae-in taking the oath just a day after South Koreans went to the polls to elect him. And now they're hopeful for change.
It would be good if the president can fulfill his promises made before the election, that he will create a society without bias and where the young people are happy.
Moon's first big job, putting together a team that can quickly plug a political vacuum left by the ousting of his predecessor Park Geun-hye. Now at the helm, Moon will need to find ways to mend a deeply divided electorate and a society badly bruised by the former president's corruption scandal. His most challenging task, though, coaxing an increasingly belligerent North Korea to dial back on its nuclear and missile threats while diffusing a potential trade conflict with the US. Moon will also need to figure out how to ease tensions with China following the deployment of the US anti-missile system known as THAAD, aimed at protecting his country from a potential rocket from the north.
Well, it's thought China will be pleased with Moon's appointment, given his stance on Pyongyang and the THAAD missile defense system. Daniel Epstein tells us more from Beijing.
Well, over here in China, they'll likely be very pleased by the appointment of Moon Jae-in, not because he's more left-leaning than some of the other South Korean candidates who's sworn to rein in big business, but specifically because of his approach towards North Korea. He said that it will require more dialogue and more engagement. He's also said that he wants to review the deployment of THAAD, the missile defense system, something which China has been opposed to all along, saying that it's a threat to their own national security. So what Moon Jae-in risks, therefore, is perhaps distancing South Korea from their longtime ally, the US. He also is at risk, if they were to seriously review the THAAD missile defense system, of being accused of simply kowtowing to China. Something which Moon Jae-in supporters will not appreciate. But in the meantime, China is surely pleased that someone has been elected who's willing to take a different approach towards North Korea.
Dan Epstein there in Beijing. Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. Well, a dip in iPhone sales might have taken the shine off shares of Apple, but it's still become the first US company to top the $800 billion mark in market capitalization just over 2 years after it crossed the $700 billion threshold. And has given shareholders plenty to cheer about all the same. The company's advanced 33% this year and represents about 4% of the entire S&P 500 index. Analysts say it just goes to show how powerful a franchise it is. And if it stays on this growth path, Apple could surpass the $1 trillion market cap level later this year. China's April producer price inflation cooled more than expected as iron ore and coal prices tumbled further. Fears domestic demand won't be strong enough to absorb surging supplies are piling pressure on the market. The data, combined with slightly slower growth in manufacturing activity, reinforces views economic expansion remains solid but is starting to moderate after a strong start to the year. UK Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn says he'll negotiate a divorce deal with the EU to secure tariff-free trade if his party wins power next month. But he won't say whether he'd lead Britain out of the bloc, no matter what. Labour struggled to take a stance on Brexit. Most of the party supported the campaign to remain in the EU in last year's referendum, but many of its traditional supporters voted to leave. And exporters in the UK have been cheering the plunge in sterling since last year's vote to leave the European Union because it means every overseas sale brings in more pounds than before. But as Lucy Fielder reports, many see a bleak longer-term outlook.
A plunging pound has given UK manufacturers like Gripple, which makes building supplies, a windfall since the Brexit vote. UK exports have risen in value 15% over the past year, so you'd think they'd be rubbing their hands.